As we always do, we'll take a moment of reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's go into a moment of reflection, please. Thank you. I'm going to ask us to rise and join Councilman Bishop as he returns the pledge. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to public hearings, which we have none. We have a consent agenda tonight, the approval of minutes of September 10, 2024 and September 18th, 2024. That was a work session. The monthly bill list, approval of the task order number 5 to CH Consulting for construction administration and construction testing services with the WWTP Biosolids Management Facility and Headworks Improvement Project in the amount of $480,000. We have approval of task order number 6 to CHA Consulting for Resident Project Representative, RPR, services in the WWTP Biosolids Management Facility and Headworks Improvements Project, the amount of $487,000.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins.
Aye.
Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That is 5-0 and 1 absent. Introductions and presentations. We have planner Daria Irish and Neighborhood Service Coordinator Tim Solosky to present code enforcement and neighborhood enhancement services.
Good evening. I'm Daria Irick. I am the Planner 1 here with Christiansburg. I am also the town's property maintenance official, certified through VDCOA with DHCD.
I'm Tim Solosky. I'm the Neighborhood Service Coordinator and Code Enforcement Inspector for the town of Christiansburg.
So we're just here to talk to you a little about tonight, the code enforcement efforts that the town makes, kind of the what we do, why we do it, how we do it. We've collected some impact photos that I think you all really enjoy, as well as some statistics over the past few years, and a little bit more insight into interdepartmental staff efforts when it comes to code enforcement here. So you can see on the presentation here, just the two of us and a couple more in the zoning department enforce these codes, the town code, which would be tall grass, inoperable vehicles, a lot of the very common nuisances you see around town. We enforce the zoning code, which is adopted by the town, refers to some state codes as well. And then we have the Virginia Property Maintenance Code, which is adopted by the town and written by the state. All of these codes that we enforce are just a few of the ones that the town enforced. There's also fire codes, there's engineering codes, so this is just a kind of a small snippet on the more common nuisances. The reasons that we enforce these codes is first and foremost to protect the health and wellness of the public, whether it's immediate health due to an unsafe structure or prolonged health of just maintaining our clean neighborhoods and our streetscapes. Other benefits are healthy land, we have protected property investments, long living structures. I can read off the list, but you can read too. But one of the other key factors that code enforcement provides is that it's a very pivotal part into maintaining some initiatives that the town has for itself, such as Destination 2022 and our comprehensive plan, where big efforts are for clean, maintained structures in our neighborhoods. First and foremost, the goal of all our inspectors are cooperatively working with the public. We take a huge effort to make sure that we educate ourselves first in our fields, and then we provide that education to the public. That way people understand why we're asking them to mow their lawn, or why we're bugging them on a Wednesday afternoon to work with us. So we're always kind of trying to update our own skills as communicators, as de-escalatory staff members, and to build those relationships with the public at large.
So our basic procedures when we go to a property, especially if it's complaint-based, is we want to make sure that the violation is actually a violation. So we'll go out to the property, take a look at what the complaint is, and if it is a violation, then we begin to build our case, identifying the correct property, making sure we know who the property owner is, then go ahead and fill out the placards, post the property, take pictures of the violations, and then the most important part is we'll knock on the door. We want to make sure that we make contact with the person, letting them know what the violation is, what we are expecting to have done, and that the most important thing is we want to make sure that they realize that we're not there as like the boogeyman of the neighborhood, and that we'll work with them as long as they communicate and let us know, hey, this is what's happening. It is, if I can't get in touch with someone at the property, other than the placard will identify, hey, please get in touch with me. The majority of the people will get in touch with me. We use a lot of different placards just for information. You'll see the blue placard there is for just please contact us. So contact information is there so that if I have an issue and I don't really want to post the property, but I think I can get it done through just basic communication, I'll post that. But we also, as Daria had said, we have high grass and weeds. It'll identify how much time that they have and to please contact us. Of course, we have junk vehicles. We'll post the junk vehicle on the property. We'll go ahead and we have a lot of information type postings where if it is a new law like the farm use tag law, we have a placard, actually just a handout, and we'll hand it to them and explain to them briefly, hey, this is the new law. You have a vehicle here that doesn't meet the law, and these are the new laws that affect this farm use tag. And we'll give them 30 days. That particular placard and handout has been instrumental in just cleaning up basically all the farm use tags in the city. It has been, I'm sorry, in the town. It has been great. Just very kind, very, forthcoming. That is a lot of the handouts. A great thing about this community is I don't have to really enforce hard. People are pretty much 90% of everything that I ask done is done. And it's done within or before the time constraint. And that's a great thing. I always let people know, please just speak to me. If you have an issue, just let me know and we'll work together. Everything isn't cut in stone. So the 90% that we have enforced in the last 3 years have been cooperative compliance, and that's great. The estimated remainder of 8.5 of the cases that are closed go through abatement. In the abatement process, I take a long time before I move to abatement. They're tough cases usually, but we do it to the best of our ability and as much tact as we can possibly use. But we do have to abate properties. And the final 1.5% of the cases are unfounded cases, where if someone says, hey, there's a problem with this, we can say, when I go out there and look at it, no, this is not a violation. And those are basically unfounded. Of course, our last resort is always going to court. We don't want to take anybody to court, and we really bend over backwards not to take people to court. And so, in a nutshell, we have done great strides in just working with people and speaking to people respectfully, and always letting them know that we realize that they're the taxpayer, and we're here to work with them, not against them.
other photos to share with you of just some of the impacts in our community that kind of were Tim or myself or other inspectors and enforcement people throughout the past 3 years have really taken to creating for us. So here's the before versus the after. You can see the seasons have changed on this one. We have another before and after. Here's some just after photos. You can see the bald patch where a vehicle's been removed and the grass will be able to grow. We have a dumpster enclosure that was installed. And I know that the neighbors around are very happy with the developments of those cases. Another before and after of a dilapidated structure removed and the grass regrown. So here's, there's no presentation without numbers. So here's some numbers for you all. In general, you'll see a massive change from 2022 to even last year and to now when it comes to inoperable vehicles. There were over 164 inoperable vehicle cases in 2022, and it would make sense that we don't have another 164 cases on inoperable vehicles the year right after a lot of those cases got closed or vehicles towed. So you can see that after the big efforts of that 1 year, we haven't breached 50 of the same issues or complaints since, which is wonderful. The community is a little bit more informed. They work with us really well, and there's just not that influx of junk vehicles around us as much now. Other explanations for some of the sharp declines in the number of cases in general. So part of it, like Tim said, he likes to have conversations with people. And sometimes that'll end up stopping something from even becoming a violation. If he's getting complaints about grass and the grass isn't high enough yet for it to be a citation, then he'll still leave a knocker being like, hey, can you give me a call? And be like, gotta mow your grass. It's getting close. It's not there yet, but like, let's talk about this. And he's able to stop a lot of future violations from even happening just by having conversations with community members. When they see him driving around, they know and they're more aware of their property. They want to protect it. They don't want to have to get a citation for it. So that stops a lot of cases from even happening, especially with the tall grass. Other reasons why there's a little bit of a decline in the number of cases is because of our software shift. So there was a period of time in 2023 and early this year where code enforcement was operating without any kind of tracking software. So everything was done by hand, and that slowed cases down dramatically. Not only that, but there was also the time spent by staff to train and work on implementation of our new software we're now currently still kind of working through and getting used to. So there's a little bit of a slowdown when it came to all of that. There's also a little bit of a change in just procedure when it comes to complaints we get on things that we can't address. In 2022, about half the year, there was a handful of cases that were logged, conversations were logged, but they were on complaints that we don't have a code to enforce. I went ahead and I put, kind of talked with Tim and other staff members. Those are the top 4 complaints we will get that we can't address directly through our current code. Mostly it's gonna be dead trees. People will come to us all the time asking about forcing the removal of dead trees. That's not something that we can do. So looking back into our old case files, once I took away some of the cases that we couldn't address in the first place, the junk and debris in the miscellaneous categories look a little bit more like this, which is getting down way closer to what we're seeing these past couple of years, and the actual case total for that year moves down to 523. So the miscellaneous and junk and debris categories are a lot more similar to what we're seeing over these past 2 years after taking out those cases that couldn't have been dealt with in the first place. The couple areas where we have increased, you'll see the no permit violations have increased this year. Part of that is because we're starting to track zoning violations along with the violations that Tim addresses through neighborhood services. And those no permit cases would be having like storage sheds or chicken coops without a permit. So that's why you're seeing a drastic uptick in the no permit violations this year. The other one is the maintenance, that'd be the Virginia Property Maintenance Code. There's a little bit of an uptick this year. Hasn't quite reached 2022 yet, but the year's not over. The reason we're seeing an uptick there is because there's a little bit more of an aging property issue that we're dealing with. So we're going after some more aging parking lots. We're looking at some aging homes that are falling into disrepair. And then there's dealing with the complaints of falling fences, stuff like that. So there's kind of each year as things age, as we're trying to help kind of maintain existing housing stock, you'll see kind of the fluctuations in the maintenance as people take care of those problems. All right. As Tim said, only about 8.5% of all cases over the past 3 years have resulted in abatement. Very few, like only a handful of those cases have ended up in court. But the cost of abatement of currently, the current cost to abate a junk and debris violation is about $2,000. Now, every property is different, every case is different, which is why I provided the outlier of there was one case that was over $10,000 to abate, and they range drastically just like that. So while the average is 2, the range of costs for those junk and debris abatements can be anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. For grass and weeds and mowing lawns, that's averaging out to about $159 per property, but some of those larger properties that have to bring in special equipment such as bush hogs are gonna cost over $300 to mow and abate. Those costs that the town spends to abate those properties is billed to the responsible party, the property owner, and if there's any outstanding large fees, then they get placed as liens on the property. All right, so a little bit about our interdepartmental efforts. Every week staff holds meetings that include different departments. Some of those building inspections, we have neighborhood services, planning, Christiansburg PD. Sometimes we'll have other departments as well join in if there's some interdepartmental case working going on. Together we'll discuss current cases, we refer cases to each other if they're not in our authority to uphold. We'll share best practices, we'll review law updates and any code language. If there's any confusion on kind of how the code reads, we'll work on it as a team. We'll refer to Reed or to Randy if we need assistance there. And we'll hold training sessions to benefit staff. A lot of those training sessions are soft skills, such as looking at de-escalation tools, learning about different communication styles and court etiquette. So some of the things that have come out of those meetings, as Tim mentioned, we had a farm use tag awareness letter that we provided July 2024. There was a change in the laws regarding farm use tags. And so we knew there were a lot of farm use tags in the area. We got a lot of complaints about farm use tags. So what we did is we created a courtesy letter to provide anyone who had a vehicle that was now no longer lawfully tagged to direct them to the DMV to work out kind of what they needed to do. So we provided a big lead time for people to learn, oh, I didn't know the law changed, let me look at this, get to the DMV and work it out before we addressed it as a code violation. We keep up to date with all of the different authorities in our fields, so building codes, zoning codes, federal legislature, and even Supreme Court interpretations can affect how we do what we do and what the best practices are. So we'll take those weekly meetings, and if there's anything that's happened, we'll review it as a group, we'll throw it around and kind of just make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're doing things by the book, how we should, and the best way we can for the community. Finally, as I mentioned, we work very well interdepartmentally. Most of the times when there's an issue on a property, sometimes there may be issues that spread through different departments. So instead of nitpicking a property with 7 different violations, we'll try to comprise one letter that lets them know, hey, here are the issues we're seeing, here's what we need from you. So we'll provide that courtesy notice. That way Tim's not posting a property, and then they get a letter from me a week later saying, oh, by the way, here's another thing. And having that front-end discussion and that front-end letter just laying out, here are the issues, here's who you contact for this, and here's how you solve it. We found that it's very rarely do we have to come back out and post more violation notices or move forward. Usually they appreciate it, they'll come in, they'll get everything done bit by bit, which is wonderful to see. And that is all we have for you tonight. Thank you.
I have a question for y'all.
Yes, please.
What is your definition of an inoperable vehicle?
By code, an inoperable vehicle is a vehicle that either has an out-of-date inspection sticker, it has a unregistered or out-of-date license plate, or it is otherwise visibly inoperable, which would be missing an engine, missing wheels, stuff like that.
Okay, so it has an inspection stick or over a year and a half old, that's what we would look into?
Yeah, it'd be considered inoperable, yeah.
All right.
Let us know.
Oh, I will. I see it every day.
I have more questions. Thank you for the presentation. How many liens have you guys put on properties in the last 5 years?
That is a question I do not know the answer to. I don't know liens. That might be something we'd have to look into.
They're not a lot, maybe 4 or 5 a year, the most. We only have maybe 15 or 20 properties with property liens on them right now.
And how many ended up going to court?
The liens don't, they just stay on the property if the property's ever sold.
So do you guys ever go to court for any of these cases before there is actually a lien in place?
They would do.
Have you guys
So
gone?
we would go to court if, there's only a few types of violations that we can abate. So that would be tall grass, inoperable vehicles, junk and debris. There's some encroachment cases that we could abate, but if there's any question about, like, we don't wanna damage anyone's property, we wouldn't abate it. The cases that go to court are things that we can't legally abate ourselves. So that would be, on some, like, property maintenance, if someone's parking lot still had potholes. We would go to court to then have them fill in those potholes and maintain their property. Other ones would be if they let their roof get dilapidated, but it's not yet an unsafe structure, but they needed to fix their roof so it didn't become an unsafe structure, that would go to court. Other examples would be like a lot of the zoning ones would go to court, so if someone's in violation of their conditional use permit, that's not something that we could really abate. We'd have to take them to court to then have the judge mandate they come into compliance.
What's the percentage of you guys charging for mowing and removal of debris a year?
So, it's 8.5% of the cases, total cases. Are you looking for like the number spent on
Yeah.
those abatements? I can get that for you, I don't know off the top of my head.
And then, I do have a question for you guys, because I think you guys have something to do with, you guys are the ones that enforce as far as like towing services as well, correct?
So we will cite the inoperable vehicles, the police department is the one that will then contact the towing companies and go through that process. Tim has the authority to cite inoperable vehicles on private property, police department cites in the right of way, and then the police department enacts the abatement of any inoperable vehicle in town.
Now, as far as like the towing companies, is there anything that can be worked out as far as, I know that I've seen like there is a lot of going on back and forth and things with the towing services, but at the same time, I actually just feel like they have been here for a long time and operating and being able to provide a service that most of us will eventually, hopefully, you won't need for bad reasons, but, you know, there's cases where, you know, things happen and your car is inoperable for different reasons.
We have a towing list, and when a request, whether it be a wrecked vehicle, whether it be a junk vehicle, I mean, when it's reported to the police, then they go down the towing list, so it's a rotating list, so the number one is getting the lion's share of them unless they refuse to do them, and someone else has to. But they run down a rotating list as to who to call, and they're all approved, and I think, Chief, you wanna have that list?
They apply to be on the list, and
Yeah.
there are conditions that they have to agree to adhere to, and if they fall out of compliance on any of those, then it goes back to the town staff to decide if they want to come into compliance or stay on the list, take them off.
Yeah, I just think that, I know I see a lot of back and forth regarding like the towing companies and things like that, and I actually would like to have more information later on about this, especially because I just feel like, from some of the emails that we have received and everything, I completely don't understand the full thing behind it. As far as like, I understand if there is a vehicle, inoperable in a residential home. But if it's a commercial property and they are doing a service for this, what's the time frame that they actually have to be able to have that vehicle in there without having to go through town requirements?
Well, with that, again, we're gonna talk to them. You know, there's a lot of variables. There isn't one, you know, cut and dry. So somebody could come, I could go and tag a car or go and speak to somebody and ask them about the vehicle, and they could tell me a litany of things that's going on that you would have no idea that's going on in their life, right? So, you know, to be respectful, you wanna say, okay, I understand. We can revisit it because it isn't cut in stone, or we can just say to them, hey, let's just work together. When is a time that you think you might be able to bring in compliance? It can be, you know, death in families. It can be, I mean, an unbelievable amount of circumstances. So the most important thing is just trying to speak to somebody and open up a good rapport with them, just to be, you know, more friendly rather than, hey, this is a violation and we're gonna only hold to these standards. Because we have flexibility, and we don't want to be the boogeyman. So it is, it's an easy process to be able to extend time. You know.
I am asking just about the towing companies
So
themselves.
what are you asking for? Because I don't think I understand what you're asking for.
I want to find out what is the time frame that you guys have to get somebody to comply as far as towing companies go, because you guys do have to help with that process.
I think that's really at discretion of the zoning administrator if it's a zoning violation, and I'm the zoning administrator currently. In regards to what would be considered a violation, our definition of a junkyard includes more than 5 inoperative motor vehicles. And we have traditionally allowed garages and towing services to keep up to 5 inoperative motor vehicles. They typically have to get a conditional use permit. We do have some grandfathered businesses in town, grandfathered locations. But right now, I believe all of the towing services that applied for the towing list are currently compliant and on the tow list. I know we did have a violation in some, I think 2 businesses were removed, but like I say, that those sites are compliant now and they're back on the tow list. So right now, currently, everybody who's applied to tow on the town tow list is on the town tow list.
What is the difference between the zoning for the towing company and the car dealership?
Car dealership is considered car sales, whereas, like I say, a towing company would be towing vehicles. Whereas, like I say, I guess a towing service is open to the general public. A car dealership could have their own tow vehicle, but if they aren't towing to the general public, we wouldn't necessarily require a conditional use permit for that, if they aren't doing tows for general public.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you for the presentation.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Casey, Kim?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you for your time.
Next, we have Treasurer Finance Director Valerie Tweedy to present on Finance Department operations.
Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm going to cover a lot of ground pretty quickly tonight, so I'm going to try and keep it as short and sweet as possible, and yet give you the information that I think you need. Where am I pointing? There we go. So, presentation tonight's going to be a little different than what I've usually done before. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where we've been. We'll give you a little history lesson. Where we are currently, not only within the operations of the department, but our structure and also our financial position right now, and where we are at the end of the audit year, and where we are with unassigned fund balance. And then lastly, where we're going, what's up next. So I got here back in 2009. I was hired as the Director of Finance Treasurer, and was quite pleased to be here, and after leaving the Great White North and coming to a little bit warmer climate. except for that the first year it snowed, I was accused of bringing the snow with me because we got like 2 feet of snow that year. First and only time since I've been here, thank goodness. And I have not missed the Great White North at all. I am good with no snow. Anyway, after about my first week on the job, I was kind of scratching my head and thinking, what on earth have I stepped into? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the structure of the department was then, and what it was back then, and the things that they were doing back then. So it was, at that time, the treasurer's office, which was primarily responsible to accept all payments, to bill the annual tax bills, and to do bi-monthly utility billing, which meant we built every other month for water usage. And then we did cutoffs every other month. And then they would write all the checks, pay the bills of the town, and do the payroll. And that was about it. The budget was done by the assistant town manager. Department heads had little to no involvement in that process other than a few capital requests. The annual financial report was done by the auditors, and it was a general purpose financial statement. For giggles, I'm not gonna make you read them. This is the budget for 2009. And this is our current budget. It's a little bit bigger, just as a comparison. The financial statements, this is our current annual report. This was the annual report back in 2009. So big changes. Back then, we had no purchasing department, very little purchasing compliance. We had minimal grants and minimal grant compliance. We, at that time, did about 6 police officer grants, and those were mostly administered by the police department. There was one grant that was for the downtown sidewalks, the Brickscape and all the wide sidewalks downtown, and the CDBG grant for the low-income housing areas of town. That was it. That was all the grants we had. Today, we have over 25 special revenue funds, which collect and keep their own funds that are generated for those specific events, and amongst those are about 15 different grants. Some of those are police department, a lot of those are police department. The other big portion of grants that we have is in capital projects. I counted up for the end of last year, we had over 30 capital projects ongoing, and about 20 of those were all grant funded, either 50% or 100%. So that's a lot of grant compliance, and that's a lot of change and a lot of growth from 6. So big changes. This is the structure then. You had a treasurer and a deputy treasurer. One person that did payroll, one person that did business professional and occupational licensing, one person for tax billing, 2 for utility billing, 1 receptionist, and 3 customer service representatives. 11 employees in 2009. What do we do today, and what's different about our structure? We do a whole lot. There's not a day that goes by that there's not something new coming down. Whoops, what did I do? Oh, there we go. So this is kind of an incredibly long list, but some of the high points are, we now do proration billing on taxes. So your vehicles now are prorated for the number of months you own it, instead of what you owned on January 1 gets taxed for the whole year. Now we prorate it over the number of months that you own the vehicle and it was licensed or garaged here in Christiansburg. We bill utility bills monthly. We now bill over 11,000 bills every single month. We do cutoff every single month, with the exception of Christmas. We usually don't do them. I'll say that quietly. We pay all the bills of the town. We process all the payroll. We prepare all the grant reports, verify financial compliance, and do most of the grant drawdowns. We prepare all the required financial reports for the outside agencies such as VDOT, the annual financial surveys by Weldon Cooper, Virginia Fire Programs, federal and state forfeited asset sharing, monthly reports. We do purchasing for the whole town, and make sure that we're complying with the Virginia Procurement Act. We handle all property and liability insurance claims for the town, and we track all sale of lots and accounts receivables for the cemetery. We'd just taken over the cemetery, I think, in 2009 or 10. We prepare all the budget amendments and resolve budget issues. We do all debt and investment management. We gather all the data to prepare the annual budget. Of course, the department heads now submit their requests for operational funding and new positions and capital requests. That is then all compiled and reviewed by myself and the town manager before presentation to council. The budgets now are done through our new ERP system, which is fantastic in terms of their ability to get the information in there and to compile it so much easier. Up until the new ERP system, it was these big, massive Excel spreadsheets. Then Val had to combine them all, and they were just super prone for error. So the ERP system has been a tremendous help in that regard. We prepare the annual comprehensive financial report, and we have received the GFOA's Award of Excellence 12 years running for the annual report. We also do the citizen-centric report, which we have been receiving awards for that for the last 7 years. Our biggest task has been the implementation of the new ERP system, which started just a little over 3 years ago. We are coming up on the end of it. Code enforcement, we almost ran off on me. They are almost done with the engineering, permitting, and licensing piece of it. The other big piece is our utility billing and collections. That will go live late October. And I'll have more information for you on that soon. As we pull all those instructions together. We've implemented a new timekeeping system, a new payroll system, new HR management, financial general ledger. And the last piece will be our asset management and work order systems, which will not start till January. And that will be the very last piece of that implementation. So what's the department look like now, and how did we get here? We now have 13 employees, 2 more than 15 years ago. We have a deputy director and the procurement officer. And then we combined payroll and business and professional and occupancy licensing. And we did that because we used to run 7 payrolls every month. We did 4 weekly payrolls, 2 bi-weekly payrolls, and a monthly payroll. And we combined all of those into, everybody gets paid bi-weekly or they get paid monthly. And the monthlies are only town council and retirees. So by cutting your payroll down to 4 from 7, you can get some real efficiencies. So we also have an accounts payable manager. We added a tax billing specialist when we went to proration, because it just takes that much more energy with all of the changes that come down for the proration of the personal property tax. Still 2 utility billing people, and 1 receptionist, and we're still 3 customer service representatives. So we're a little lean at times, and we've all been grossly overworked with the implementation of this new software, but we're getting her done. So on to a little bit of numbers. Our revenues as of June 30th for the fiscal year were $59.3 million. And you can kind of see how that's all spread in terms of where it comes from. 22% from water and sewer, 16% is intergovernmental, 17% from meals tax. So those are our really big chunks. Charges for services is primarily like solid waste and other general fund type services like Parks and Rec and that kind of thing. Expenditures were $55.8 million. And you can see how those break down into the categories of expenses. Water and sewers, 26%. Police, fire, rescue, and building inspections are considered all the public safety departments, and they're 25%. Public Works, 12%. Parks and Rec, 12%. Capital outlay, 7%. Debt service is only 3%. And administrative services is 9%. And administrative covers town manager's office, finance department, IT, HR, PR. So in a way, all of those could be allocated out to all of those other departments, but it's easier to kind of just keep them segregated to see what those costs are. From a budgeting perspective, we did well. Actual revenues were 40.4 million. Budget was 35.3. So really exceeded our revenue projections there. Our expenditures were 34 million compared to budget of 38.3 million. Enterprise revenues, the budget was 14.6, actual was 13.2. That's not a bad thing. There was a $1.9 million grant in there that only gets reimbursed when we actually get the work done. So that will roll over into next year. So it really wasn't a downside on the revenue, and you'll see that in several of the other funds coming up here. So on the expenditure side, we didn't spend more than we had budgeted to spend or estimated to spend. For stormwater, special revenue, and the cemetery fund, kind of see pretty straightforward. The stormwater, again, there was several $1 million worth of grants that were projects, capital projects in the stormwater fund that we didn't do yet, so we don't have the revenue until we actually do the work. So those will roll over to next year. So although that number looks a little funky, it really is okay. And special revenue funds is the same way. Those are a lot of grant funds in there. If the grants don't come in, we don't recognize them. And a big chunk of that is the ARPA funding that is getting spent out right now on College Street. So that wasn't really full blown until after we got past June. So that was a big chunk of it. It was a little over $2 million. And then there were several other grant funds that was the same case with. And cemetery revenues were over expenditures. So where's, oh, yeah, can you move that over, Christina? No, the whole slide just doesn't wanna, yeah, there we go, that'll work, thank you. So our revenues over expenditures for the year were 5.1 million. Our beginning unassigned fund balance was 26.9 million. In the budget, we assigned 12.2 million of that to various projects, capital projects that are ongoing, and that's net of using the reserves. Expected changes from the budget rollover, which is the capital projects that we roll over, so some of that money is actually sitting in that unassigned fund balance, leaving us with an expected ending unassigned of just a little over 19 million. Required by policy. Policy says between 30 and 40. I usually just say 35% is kind of down the middle. That's where we want to be. That gives us our required cash flow and emergency fund should the sky fall in. So that would leave us with an available amount to assign of $2.2 million. And that's probably the number you guys all care about the most. So where are we going? Well, Val and Deanna are both going to retire this year. This has been the best 15 years of my career. I have to tell you that. I have truly, truly enjoyed working for the town. It has brought me some of my greatest challenges and taught me more patience than I thought I could muster. I'm grateful to all of you and to the previous councils for continuing to appoint me as the Director of Finance and Treasurer and the trust that you have placed in me over the years. Really appreciate all of that. Thank you. Obviously, it's up to the council to replace myself when I go December 31st. You all have my formal letter of resignation on your desk this morning or this evening. So anyway, that's that piece. council allowed me to hire 2 new deputy directors. One's been here 4 months, one's been here almost 6. And they are learning the ropes. So we have 2 deputy directors. The town will be in good hands when we leave. And it will be up to council to make the decision on how that moves forward. So I really appreciate all that. We still have a lot to do with the initial implementation of the ERP system. Part of getting the system up and going is not trying to expand and do too much all at once. You kind of want to cover your bases and get things going, make sure the operations will still work as smoothly as possible, add some of the features that are easy to put on. But as we work the kinks out of the system and start moving that forward, we'll be able to expand that and get even more out of the system than what we're getting today. And I trust that the new younger people will move that forward in a great way. Katie is working on spearheading a new system called ClearGov. And if you're familiar with the town of Herndon, they have their budget out there and they use ClearGov. It creates a budget that is more user-friendly to the citizens. It kind of gives high points and it's just a little more user-friendly. Mayor actually brought that budget to me a while back and we took a look at it and we thought that was pretty cool. We really liked the way it works. It will interface with our ERP system so we can continue on our road and expanding that and moving it into ClearGov and being able to develop a broader, more user, citizen-friendly, transparent budget that I think everybody will get a lot out of. So with that, I think we've done a lot over the last 15 years to increase the accountability of the town with very, very limited increases in staffing. As the town continues to grow and things change, you may need to add 1 or 2 here or there. But I think you're in good hands. Thank you.
Well, I will speak first as the major. I remember the day we hired you. I was on that committee, and it was like, you know, you brought the snow. But I'll tell you,
All 2 feet of it.
we had it was a very, very, it wasn't a lax run finance department, but it wasn't as refined as it is now. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done for the town, for the citizens, and for the employees. I mean, you have taken the system. We're right in the penthouse right now. We were down pretty much about the first floor of the basement before. And not that was bad. We needed to do things. We're very financially sound, probably more financially sound now than we have ever been. And I appreciate all your hard work. I know that the department heads have appreciated what you've been able to do, the police department, all of them, to be able to find things and help them with things. So it's a monumental task, and you exceeded our expectations, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'll just second that. As far as your job, it has been a well done job over here. You always have an answer, and it can be sometimes late at night when I'm sending emails, but you always respond, and so I really appreciate it. Even though I know some of the stuff is being rough, especially when, you're trying to come up with money and we all want money to spend on different things. So, you kind of have been the mom of town council to tell us no on many things and things like that, and obviously being very honest with it too. I really appreciate your honesty and the budget and everything else through the process. Because when there has been to have, water bill increases or, even tax increases that, maybe in the future and stuff, that you have been very open, even mentioning that. And, it takes a lot of courage for someone, to say those things. So I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate you, your work that you have done for our community and for paying all the
It's been my
bills.
pleasure.
Keep it bills.
You signed the bills.
Yes,
So,
like to say the same thing. I appreciate what you have done. I hope the next person can do just as well, if not better. And I also appreciate, whenever I had a question, your door was always open. Appreciate it.
We still have 2.5 months.
Yeah.
You're not gone
We
yet.
haven't formally accepted this letter yet either, baby.
So you're telling me I can't count too?
She's counting. Yes. Do you have a few more months out of me?
Good.
You may change your mind.
See, as one who's gotten right up to the date to retire, you don't change your mind. You wonder why you didn't do it 10 years sooner, but we're glad you didn't.
Yeah. Well, my initial plan when I came here was I was gonna stay for 10 years. I already doubled that, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, but it's been a pleasure.
Well, you're gonna stay to your area, we assume.
Oh, yeah, yeah, not going anywhere.
So legitimate question, the ERP, are you glad we went there with it?
Yes, I say that with a little hesitation, because there were some things where I felt like we ended up taking a step back rather than a step forward that we could do in one system that we can't do in this. But then there's other areas that we took big steps forward. The ability to expand it, to have the citizens being able to communicate with the system, to, do their B-poll online, to, pay their personal property taxes, their real estate taxes. They can do all of that online now. And with the EPL and their permitting process, they've got that all working to get that all online, so that, one of the things that hit us really to heart when we went through the pandemic was, how do we do this stuff? We've always made people come in here and fill out paper and hand us paper and do all this stuff. And it really forced us, we had already made the decision to move forward with it, but it really pushed the need for that even more. And that's part of the developing it beyond where it is now, is getting more and more of that stuff out there and working. But when you're just trying to get the system working, some of that stuff you can't really focus on. So that's going to be the biggest expansion that you're going to see, is more of the contact with the citizen and being able to do it electronically. And I think it's been a good thing.
So to say we're fully functional, how much longer? Just to
Well,
guess.
utility billing will be, once that goes live, that will be live by the end of, well, we're doing the switch over in October. By the end of November, everything should be pretty much up and going. The last piece of it, which is the asset management, doesn't affect the operational stuff. It has some pretty cool features in it for public works. That whole side of it is more public works driven than any financial pieces of it. And I think there again, it's communications. Part of that system is that it'll allow the citizens to go online and file a report. There's a street light out on Roanoke Street in front of Joe's snack shop,
Yeah.
So cool capabilities to reach out to the public, I think.
You're familiar with all this stuff, right? Did you have it at your previous employment? This type of system? Okay.
That will probably all go on by the time we finish it, January 1st.
Thank you, Val.
All righty.
Well, I didn't get this gray hair because I wasn't.
You gotta give it to someone else, she still doesn't have it.
Yeah, thank you. All righty. Citizens' comments, this is the period that we allow citizens, if they'd like to come and comment on things going on within the town, come to the microphone, name and address, and a limit of 3 minutes. And address your comments to me as the chairman.
Hello everyone, my name is Cristobal Duran and I'm here representing Bacon is for Lovers, located at 4 West Main Street, Suite 110 in Christiansburg. Good evening, members of Council and Mayor Barber. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. As I mentioned earlier, I'm here representing Bacon is for Lovers, a small bakery we started in the heart of downtown Christiansburg almost a year ago. With both a business degree and a Master of Public Administration from Virginia Tech, I have a strong belief in the potential of local communities like ours to organically grow together. When we decided to open our bakery, we believed in the potential of downtown Christiansburg to thrive. Unfortunately, the foot traffic we have hoped for hasn't materialized, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for us and other small businesses to survive. We don't blame any one person or specific policy, but it's clear that Christiansburg has not become the small business-friendly town we'd envisioned. We once reached out to the town for support, hoping to collaborate on strategies to increase foot traffic. Unfortunately, the last response we received was that someone tried visiting our bakery but found it closed, and that's where the conversation ended. This is just one example of how disconnected we feel from the town's efforts to improve the business environment. In fact, the only communication we receive from the town is when we are late on our meals tax, and that comes in the form of an email with an all caps subject line stating delinquency. You would understand how that feels as a small business is trying to juggle around production, marketing, staffing, and basically everything that involves starting your own project. Supporting small businesses requires more than construction projects or isolated events. It requires a shift toward collaboration and inclusion. Other towns invite small businesses to local events, offer meal tax breaks, or simply communicate better about downtown activities. Here, we have one of the highest meal taxes in Virginia, yet we are often excluded from efforts to promote the downtown area. For example, on September 21st, a full-size truck blocked our storefront during an event, which led to a 70% drop in sales. That day, we received no prior notice, so we couldn't prepare. This event should make downtown vibrant, but instead, they isolate us. There are proven ways to bring people downtown, like closing streets on Sundays or family-friendly activities that draw visitors to local shops. These kinds of initiatives can turn things around, but it will take collaboration between the town and its businesses. We're not asking for any special treatment, just for the opportunity to be part of the conversation. Better communication and a proactive, more horizontal approach to include small businesses in the town's future planning would make a world of difference. While we support initiatives like Downtown Christiansburg, the town must take a more active role in fostering a culture of small business support. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with you all to make Downtown Christiansburg a place where businesses like ours can feel valued and supported by both the community and town. Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll close citizens' comments. I will say this, we did address the issue of Saturday in our special events committee meeting this morning. And I don't think the people responsible putting on the event, the Kiwanis Club, may not have contacted you, but anyway, we did address that specific concern this morning in the staff meeting.
And we do plan on basically following up just to make sure that that if it is an organization that they did reach out to the downtown businesses. One thing, I guess maybe in fairness, Kiwanis might have not seen them as being within their footprint just because of the location. So.
They need to be in the footprint. Okay, I'll send them. Committee reports, strict committee, anything?
Yes, I have a couple of things to pass on, and this is for information only, so council's not required to take any action. And basically, one was to be on Park Street, have a complaint of speeding. We did do a speed study with the speed buggy from, August 13th till September the 13th. And the average speed on that time was 26.57 miles per hour. The posted speed is 25 miles per hour. So with that being said, that does not meet the threshold of our program that we have for traffic calming. The planning committee recommended that we agreed that maybe we need more speed limit signs posted, because right now I think there was there's two on Park Street. So maybe we need a couple more speed limit signs posted. And this speed was mainly from, West Main Street to Depot Street. Am I correct on that? So right now, that's gonna be the next step we're gonna take, is to put more signage out to see if that helps calm things down. And during this time frame, there was approximately, if I'm reading this right, for a month, there was like 63,555 vehicles. If I'm reading this right, Chief, total volume? Is that what that means?
Sounds right, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Total volume.
Park Street, she was at a shortcut.
Yeah, it
It
is.
really is. So,
Guilty.
but right, oh, me too. But right now, like I said, the average speed is 26.54. And I think at one time they had one was 31 miles per hour. Next one we're gonna have is on East Main Street.
Westman.
Huh?
Is it Westman? It's traffic study.
It's not West Main. Okay, West Main. Anyway, it's on Main
Oh,
Street.
thank you very much.
Yeah, Main Street, West Main Street, I'm sorry, I keep getting those streets messed up. Same thing, had a complaint of speeding on that street. The information we have present is apparently, it looks like from February 16th to March 16th, they did a speed study on that street, which is a 25 mile per hour zone. The average speed was 32.62 miles per hour. Total volume of 69,275 vehicles. Right now, the same thing with this one. It does not meet the threshold of our program. And so, am I right on this, Chief? Because at one time, this is showing 2024. And this was at 805 West Main Street, but the complainant lived at 995. So, am I reading, or do I have wrong information? Y'all talking, so.
That was the one the gentleman handed out at the meeting.
Yes.
The other one I think that we provided, was, I believe it was March or April of 22. So there,
The one he handed out was, he gave to in March of 2024. Can you come up to my place, please? My hair's going like everything else.
yes, the study that was run, it did not exceed the 85th percentile for the traffic study, nor did it exceed the average speed that are thresholds. West Main Street's a little tricky as far as speeding goes because it is classified as an arterial route according to to VDOT, and it does, by that classification, just the volume of traffic, average AADT, average annual daily traffic is over 10,000 vehicles a day in that stretch. So it does not qualify by the classification of the road for the traffic calming policy. So we are going to look a little deeper into the number of accidents along that stretch and talk to the police chief about maybe some potential additional enforcement. That in itself is tricky just because of the nature of the road and where you would position a vehicle to do that enforcement. But we're going to look a little deeper into it. There was also discussion about safety concerns for pedestrians. So as council approved a couple meetings ago, approved the grant funding for the Safe Streets for All. That's one of the areas that we're going to focus on for that study. And maybe there'll be a potential to acquire some additional grants in the future. We can always also apply for transportation alternative grants for projects through VDOT as well. So that's about the sum of the issue that was brought to the street committee this evening.
All right, that's really all I have. I think the main key to remember that street is not considered as a residential street. That's correct. Okay, that's all I have.
Alrighty, water and waste,
Nothing.
central business,
We need to, we're gonna have a meeting very soon as part of this, but I would love for Becky's pullovers to, be able to participate. There's a way to make it work with their schedules. I really appreciate you coming to town council today to speak. I have been in your shoes many times as far as different things with the businesses and stuff, and not as a complaining thing, but a way to, work together with the town in many ways. do see your concerns, and I'm hearing what you're saying, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of what I can relate, really understand what your concerns are. I hope that for anybody that, is in town or out of town, to come and visit this wonderful bakery store, because it is definitely a jewel in Christiansburg. But I would love for you to come to Central Business, so maybe we can discuss in ways to talk to, and maybe I have to disclose, I have a business downtown Christiansburg too, but I do wanna make sure that, that everybody's treated fairly. And I can see that as a town council person and also as, as a business owner, so, to see how to improve those relationships. Because I think they are working right now as far as like some of the things that they are doing, but I do think that we still got some work to do.
Arts, council, done anything lately?
Right now, we're engaged in looking at the Gravity Building right across the street from us. We saw it there, and that real estate in order to develop a mural on that wall. So we're working with the new property owner, and vetting that right now in the process to put out a call for artists in the future for that Gravity Building. So,
Good, good. Ms. Bowman, anything from Central Business?
No, we're waiting on the grants.
Ms. Bowman? Yes.
No, I think we have requested to form a committee to go over the applications. Applications for the facade grants are through the end of this month. So right now, there's 3 applications. Unless there's one more that's coming in that I'm not aware of.
How many apps do we have for the grants?
I can't tell you, it hasn't closed yet, closes
Hasn't
next
closed yet,
week.
but there was 6?
I'm not sure.
I think I heard that figure from the planning director, so it has been very interesting. So, yeah, we'll get it closed and make the decisions.
And then you had a meeting night and
All right, any committees represented here, nothing on, okay. Discussion and action by mayor and council, River Valley Regional Commission Office Building Project Financing, and we have 2 options. We agreed last meeting that we would, support this effort.
Motion to approve.
So what are we gonna approve? We have 2 things. Well, I mean, we can do it 2 options. We can do $400,000 up front, or we can finance, we can pay $30,458.70 a month or a year for 20 years. Which,
Just split,
that's almost double paying what we,
our recommendation would be to go ahead and pay it now and to use extra ARPA money that we're going to have left over from the College Street Drainage Project. We do have to spend that money by the end of the fiscal year, or end of the year, obligated by the end of the fiscal year. So that would be, one, I think, good way to pay for it.
okay,
That's what I make a motion to approve.
Can we,
Second.
now we can discuss it.
can we do a public hearing for this, since it's obviously taxpayers' money to be spent on the purchasing of a copy?
They need to know the answer, I think it's by next week, on the financing option.
Well, doesn't the town have to do public?
We would have to do a budget amendment for it.
Yeah, and you still have to do
It
public
wouldn't,
hearing for that, right?
it wouldn't require a public hearing for 400,000, correct?
Well,
Or would it?
So we're
yeah,
not
we've been on it, probably not, but we'll probably throw it into the budget, amendment too, which more than likely will be.
And then how does it work with the, I want to hear, because I was reading the information, Kevin, Bird had sent out a letter. And Tim, you're part of the committee, can you tell me what went on in the meeting? Did everybody agree to pay the money, or?
It's Tanya's.
Oh,
But yes,
Tanya.
it,
So did they all agree to pay into this, or where does it stand right now?
I think some localities are still pending decisions.
So is that like, I know you're pending, like where they gonna go and talk with their town council members and everybody else?
I think
or-
Kevin is speaking to Floyd County tonight.
they're in the same boat as we are, from what I still get the report, and they're in the same boat as we are. They just haven't voted on it yet. So when he's talking about there's localities pending, it hasn't been gone before it hasn't gone before the elected officials, other than they got a head nod like we did the last time we discussed it. Now it's officially coming before us to make a decision.
Okay, so any other comments or questions?
Once again, I'm gonna go no on this.
You don't have, you can just vote and tell us.
Well,
again
but
what
I'll
you're
tell
gonna
you
do.
what's going on, because I do feel like this is money that has to be spent, and it's still, believe it or not, it's coming out of the budget. That's why we are doing a budget amendment, so.
Very good. Anyone else? Ms. Henline, and it's it's to pay the lump sum, $400,908, whatever it is, dollars. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Councilman Bishop, Councilwoman Bowman,
Nay.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Nay.
Councilman Jenkins,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
There's 3-2. Motion carries. We'll proceed. Cooperative agreement for radio technician service support program. This is very often we get one of these things that's actually an income producer for the town. So, this is to redo the, agreement with the county in Blacksburg.
Blacksburg.
And a motion to approve, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's the same thing. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, very good. Any comments or questions?
I think it's really good. How much did he actually makes us a year? Because he does make some money.
I think last year we actually lost a little bit of money. The first year we made a little bit of money. That's part of the reason we are rewriting the contract, is because of the loss. And we are trying to restructure it so that we'll actually turn just a little bit of profit this year on it to try to basically regain. Basically the reason is it basically increases to materials cost. Copper has drastically increased over the last several years. And also we've had increased costs of our own employees, staff time. So.
Can
Okay.
I ask how much that loss was?
Do you know what it was?
It was, I think, less than $1,000.
Oh,
It wasn't tremendous.
yeah, but didn't he used to make, how much did he used to make? Because I remember
I
I
think-
used to
I
see
think-
it as
I think the first year it maybe made $2,000. It didn't. It didn't make.
It's not a lot of money.
No.
still, the $1,000, great job.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Bishop,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks,
Aye.
Councilman Jenkins, Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
That's 5-0. Thank you very much. Staff reports, Town Manager.
I guess I've got a number of things for you. One thing I want to just point out how successful the blood drive we did in cooperation with Blood Connection. They had 140 people register with 130 donors. A few, of course, people didn't show, and they weren't able to get to a few people within the time period. But that is by far their largest event that they've had. 65 was their largest amount of donors previously. And we've had a lot of staff participated in that as well. Also, they raised $2,575 that are donated to fire and rescue. I'll point out that the homecoming parade is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. The NAAC Freedom Fund banquet is Saturday at 6 p.m. at the Inn at Virginia Tech. The fire prevention parade is Tuesday, October 2nd at 7 p.m. The Water Authority tour is Wednesday, October 2nd at 2 p.m. And October 16th, council work session. Some of the outstanding items that you have are tourism, emergency services request from the county, the Main Street program, outdoor advertising, and a capital planning session.
Just tourism.
I think we beat tourism to death.
I think we need to continue to finalize it so we can get it over and done with.
until we get the draft of what you think the,
At the last meeting, I was, the work session, I was instructed to basically work on a draft with the director.
right.
So-
So that's a hold off on it until we get.
And that one's after VML, correct? The
Correct.
16th is
That's the,
11th
we're
through.
down there the 13th and 14th,
'Cause I do,
11th, 15th, 16th.
VML's the 13th through the 15th.
it was
Okay,
VML, Virginia Municipal League,
13th through the 15th, so that'd be
correct.
pretty tough to get back and.
Well,
Can we just move that one?
Yes.
it's, VML's the 15th, the work session would be the 16th.
Oh, but it's so tiring.
I'd like to
unless
propose we
announce it-
cancel the meeting on the 16th for the month of
I
October.
second that one.
Well, I was gonna say, that's, if, I don't think it takes a council vote for that, if
No.
everyone agrees. But the other thing we could do is we could have a work session at VML. We have to announce it and all the other stuff. We've
I don't
tried
think
those
everybody's
in the
going.
past.
So
I don't think
much
they're like
work over there.
that. And we've got,
I mean, we don't even see each other for like once in a while for dinner or something, because we're in meetings the whole time.
okay.
I just propose we cancel the October work session.
You do have another meeting between now and then if you would want to wait until October 8th, the regular meeting. The
To do
prior
what,
week,
cancel it?
if you wanted to wait to cancel it.
No, I think we made, I'm good canceling it now.
It's too close to Halloween. All right, very good, so it is canceled.
I do, since, I know, believe me, since I have been in town council, this tourism thing has been interesting. But I do want to just mention something and just have an open mind about this, just a comment to see if you guys can think about it. For the next months and maybe thinking about when we go to VML and maybe see what else is out there. I know that we have an economic developer position and everything else, and then we had the tourism money that we pay out. I know economic developer, correct me if I'm wrong, Valerie, was that like $100,000 a year estimated with all the costs and everything else that the town, economic developer for the town?
Oh, the business liaison?
Yes,
With benefits, yeah.
100. And then that included like advertisement and everything else, right?
It's a separate
No,
budget,
that would be
cause you, I think it's,
salary, fringe, and office supplies. It doesn't include, like advertising budget or,
So if you were to advertise and everything, will you estimate around 120, 150 total with the
what do you
position?
mean by advertising?
Like if we are advertising for anything that has to do with economic development to, advertise on Facebook or post things on pamphlets or,
The only thing I really got advertised as far as marketing sites is the LoopNet listing of our out parcel at the park.
for the economic
Yes.
development, the business person.
If you're talking about in regards to the position, we had advertised that, and we'd advertised it previously. I know it was discussed at the council meeting, but I think the
I
general
think what she's
direction.
referring to is that if in fact, the launch Christians, the launch program,
Yes.
what did we spend to advertise, marketing stuff for that? And so
And
you
then
got
you
you got $100,000 we pay for salary and all that and benefits. And then is it another 10,000 for?
The
for
breakdown of
trans-
materials and things like that,
Yeah,
It can be
I-
what, 30,000 a year?
I would have to give you, I mean, if he wanted to know what we've actually spent, I would have to pull it from the budget.
Yeah.
I think what we're getting there, that's kind of a misconception, because if your thought is you're gonna replace tourism with that department,
No,
then you're gonna
can
spend
you
a
let
lot
me
more.
finish 1 second?
You
because
were
I have-
finished.
So we have, if that was the cost is 120, and then you have, 179,000 that you're paying into tourism. If you combine those two together, which will make it almost $300,000 a year, you can definitely do a lot more with tourism with that. And so my think was, you know, talking about hiring another position and everything else, maybe combining those two positions together. Or maybe it was, I am looking really into tourism and maybe even not just belonging at the Montgomery Tourism Agency, but just actually belonging to many other tourism agencies around the region. What would the cost be? Kind of like the New River Valley Regional Commission thing where we pay a fee, but we're at a regional commission. What about, what does it look like if we're at a regional tourism? You know, and maybe who is to say regional, the NRV Regional Commission will take over the tourism one day. I just kind of want to have those ideas out there, and maybe Randy, since you have been involved with the tourism and stuff and everything, and managing the town and seeing all the other different ways that other localities are doing it, maybe that's something, I would like to have an open mind as far as this goes. And maybe for us to all think about, you know, what does tourism look like for us, and what does it look like for the Christiansburg area, and how can we get the most benefits for our town with the money that we're spending.
Thank you. Anything else in town manager's reports?
Yes. I have advertised the Small Business Solutions Manager, and I have interviews scheduled next week. I think the general directive I heard was council was to proceed with interviewing in the position. Unless, you know, I hear otherwise, I plan on going that direction.
I don't think we should right now as far as like doing that, but that's only one vote.
Okay. Proceed.
In regards to Val's position, do you want me to advertise that? How would you want to handle that?
I believe, I know we could do that, however, I believe we have replacement training now.
That was my impression, was that we had people being trained to do that, and that's what we agreed to bring on the people, whatever it was, 8 months ago or whatever, we were in a session, closed session, and agreed to do that.
Would you want to speak to the candidate? How would you want to do an interview? How would you want to do that? Do you want to simply, I mean, you would have to have somebody specific for the position, and I take it that you've got somebody specific for the position, but how would you like me to handle that as far as bringing it before council?
I do think that we need to have I partially think that this individual needs to come before us as a council and let us do our due diligence beyond the fact that we know that Valerie's training on how we operate and how we function in different things, but I would still like to.
An interview.
We'd like the griller.
You're allowed to do those in closed session if you would like.
That's why I think we should do it.
Okay. And
Let's
also
do the meeting of October the 8th is scheduled a closed session to discuss that position.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? There has, I know you have been here, and I have seen you with Valerie and everything. I don't think we have really had a lot of talks and stuff before. Don't worry, you'll hear from me. But you have, when Valerie and when Randy, we were discussing Valerie leaving, there were two positions that were open, right, for that transition time? And, I mean, I'm not saying you're not, because I don't even know, you know, like, about your job and stuff. But how, the other person, has she come to town council? Has she had the same experience as she does, or, would you like to keep two positions open instead of one, or how do you think we should transition with that? Because I think you're the right person to even ask about this.
Well, we hired 2 new deputy directors, because Deanna is also retiring. Who's
Right.
been my deputy for the last 7.5 years, so, one would slide into that position, and hopefully one will slide into mine. But obviously, that's your decision, and I fully expect that council would want to sit down and have a discussion
so we're gonna look at October the 8th, this other closed session meeting. Katie, does that fit your schedule? You will. By God, it will. It will fit your schedule. All right, very good. Andy, keep on going, bud.
May I also add to that October 8th meeting, the closed meeting, Val's request letter to that?
Yes.
Discuss it too, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and that's all I've got.
Sure. Town manager.
Attorney.
But nothing to report, man.
I don't even know why I bothered with. Any other staff here to report? Council reports, Mr. Bishop.
No reports.
Ms. Hicks. Mr. Wilson.
Nothing.
Mr. Jenkins. Ms. Bowman. I would say there was, I thought our staff did a great job handling all the traffic on the last two events, which was the food truck rodeo and the Wilderness Trail Festival. So congratulations, thank all of you for that. Other business.
I'm gonna make a motion for a closed meeting under Code of Virginia 2.2-3711 A3 for the discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purposes or of the disposition of public held real property. For discussion, open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position and negotiation strategy of the public body. The closed meeting is being held for discussion of potential purchase of property located on the north side of Running Street for public works purposes, and for discussion of potential purchases of property in the North Franklin Street, Purpose-Free Road area for the emergency services purposes. And this is form of a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bowman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hicks. Councilman Jenkins. Councilman Wilson.
Aye.
That is, thank you. Oh, well, hey, we'll take about a 3 or 4 minute recess. I believe, do we need, Public Works Director and Fire Chief in here for this?
Yes.
Staff on this?
Yes.
Okay,
And
very good.
Finance wants to stay too, for that matter.
Do what?
Finance wants to stay too, for that
Okay,
matter.
very good. We'll take